Hey Capricorn, this is your monthly tarot reading. So this is for September 2023 for Capricorn sun or rising sign. So this is of the videos that I put out, the more extended reading. So that's what we are looking at here. We end up looking at beginning, middle, end of the month, also challenge, spiritual advice, overall theme. If you're looking for more bite-sized kind of videos that tend to be around maybe 5 minutes on average, I put out bi-weekly videos for all signs, and those just came out 2 days before the beginning of September. So it goes from full to new moon or new moon to full moon, and that goes from August 30th for the full blue moon to the new moon in Virgo on September 14th. So you can check that out. That's available. So let's get into what your month actually looks like, how this is all unfolding. Looks like there's a lot of focus on yourself this month, and not that that's a bad thing. I think like we need to, it's become maybe more normalized a little bit, but I think we need to really normalize the paying attention to, focusing on. Sometimes there's a season where we're really just paying attention to ourselves. All right. Oh, interesting. I felt like that was the one there. Here. You know what's interesting is I actually felt it was the reverse. I don't always do that, but I was like, no, that was the card that was supposed to go there. Okay, so do I want to keep it the same card? There's this amazing storm. I don't know if you guys can hear it, like how hard the rain is pouring outside, but it's fantastic. Yeah, I do feel a different deck. So let's take a look here. All right. Okay. All right, Capricorn. So here is the overall look for your month. So we'll start off with like, this is a collective reading, as I've said. If this is your first time joining me, if this is your sun sign, for instance, and you're watching this and you're like, it's not really resonating with me, then go watch your rising sign video. But honestly, if you want to get a very clear and specific reading, the best way is to do one-to-one, whether that's with me or someone else. If you want to do it with me, information is down below in the description box if you want to do that. Let's get into it. So how can we focus what is the overarching theme for this month? And it is the first house. The first house is the only house in astrology that is purely about the native, yourself, you, right? And so this is about not just how you're navigating life, but your personality, yes, but also more so like your characteristics, physical appearance, body. So all of these things, it's very much, it's like, it's your only you house. Every other time you could picture it like if you were going to different neighborhoods or other family or friends' houses, but this one is only yours. It's all for you. And so I feel like there's a big focus on like what is actually happening for you personally. Maybe you're going through, oftentimes when planets traverse the first house for us, there's some kind of like, we're not quite the same on the other side of it. Not necessarily in a bad way, but just like there's a transformative kind of quality to that. We might be very different, come out on the other side and be like, this is a new iteration of myself now that I've gone through this process, right? Which would make a lot of sense given that we're coming out of the Venus retrograde at the beginning of the month, and then, also coming out of a Mercury retrograde just shortly after on the 15th. And yes, we have other planets retrograde, but however, and also like, I think these are the more personal ones, are the ones that actually have sometimes a more transformative process when we're looking at our values and like what's happening with our contracts and our communication, all these different things, right? So the beginning third of the month that we have here is the Page of Swords. And I think that you're just doing a lot of investigating. Maybe this is internal investigating, maybe this is legit research online, but there's a curiosity and almost like a backing out to kind of zoom out, get to a higher vantage point, like trying to get to the top of a hill so that you can like overlook and survey everything and get a better understanding, to get some clarity. Maybe perhaps you're feeling like you need that clarity because you're like, I need more information, or I need a better vantage point. I'm just like, I need to get away from everything and everyone and get away from it all at points so that I can see things more clearly, so that I can think about things more clearly, so I can get some clarity. It's interesting because in the middle of the month, we actually have the Five of Swords, which is, this is a challenging card. This is a card that is sharp. There's it's not just like the Five of Wands, I would say, is a difference of desires, like conflicting desires. Five of Swords is like there is a very clear winner and a very clear loser. And, you know, the person who wins is usually at a cost. Like they won their position. They're like, I'm digging my heels in. Now, this could be you or this could be somebody else, right? But we don't know which one it is because I'm not reading for you as an individual one-to-one. So I'm going to speak from both sides, right? But the person who wins often in these kinds of scenarios, it's like they did everything that they could do. They dug their heels in. They maybe pushed or did whatever they had to do so they could have it their way. And then they get their way. They finally get it. And it's like, okay, but at what cost? Like what kind of damage is possibly irreparable that was done on your part that can't be taken back possibly, you know, who knows? That's challenging. Usually it indicates that you're going to have an experience on the other side of that and be like, ah, shit, I went too far with that. But probably won't realize it for a little bit. And then if you're on the other side, if you're someone who was on the quote unquote like loss side, right? Like the losing party in this scenario, if there's like you in a group or you and other people, but you kind of ended up getting the fuzzy end of the lollipop kind of thing. And it's just kind of like, man, it can feel like a real sharp loss. Like somebody else won at a cost that feels unfair, that feels unbalanced for you, right? So whichever side of that you are on, there's something that comes up that feels this way, right? Comes up in the middle of the month. Now, given that we're looking at the swords, it's very possible that this has to do with communication with others or another person in some way because of the Mercury retrograde that is going until the 15th, like right in the middle of the month. So, you know, it's possible that that has to do something with that. It's interesting too, because I really feel like this is something that is starting out, like you're coming into the beginning of the month with already like these questions and wanting to figure something out. And then it moves into this place. Luckily, by the end of the month, it moves into this place where you're just like, there's some healing that can be done. You know, the Star card is like the card that comes right after the Tower card, you know, the famed Tower card as the thunder rumbles outside, you know, and there is the like, okay, this wasn't going to, whatever this was that was being created wasn't going to be a foundation or a structure that was going to stand the test of time. And it had to go back to the drawing board. It had to start from scratch. And so the Star card is like in the clearing, there is like, it's almost like after a rainstorm and the kind of fresh air that's there, you know, with the breeze, you know, so there is this kind of a different level of openness and also a place of calm and peace and healing that can happen in this space, whatever that means, you know, perhaps like if this is related to this, then perhaps there is this, you know, healing from this particular situation that can now happen. There's a lot of different ways that we can look at this, but yeah, so that's what's happening. That's how your month is rounding out. So it'll be interesting to see what the October reading for you guys is like. And the challenge here being the Two of Wands, you know, just not being able to really make a definitive decision about which path. And also what I've found with the Two of Wands when it's in like a challenge position like this is like not necessarily always about not being able to choose, but about like thinking that there only are two ways to choose, right? Which can happen definitely for, I mean, I've certainly experienced this, you know, I find it to be a very human experience where we start to back ourselves into these places where we're like, oh, I can only like say yes or no, like do this or don't do this. It's like this path or that path. It's, you know, it's like very black and white. And with the Two of Wands, it can sometimes be about like, because the Two of Wands is normally about saying like, hey, the world is your oyster. You can choose any path. There's multiple possibilities. So like choose one and then you can start to get the ball rolling, right? In a challenge position, it's like either having a difficult time with the choosing of it or also thinking that you have to have it only in the ways that you think they need need to go. Like, oh, it can only be this way or this way. Not necessarily. Perhaps there's a way that there's elements of the two of those paths coming together. And so there's a consideration that needs to happen there. With the spiritual advice card that we have the Devil card, right? So I think there is this, you know, especially with the star, especially with what I was just talking about, and how I was talking about how like planets, for instance, that traverse the first house, like there is this kind of almost like renewal type of quality. You know, I think that there is a process that you're going through. There are going to be some decisions that need to be made. Some of it might be feeling sharp and challenging, and I think that there's a potential for healing. I think that you need to be a little bit more flexible, Capricorn. Like, I don't think things need to be so black and white, like it's either this way or that way. I think that there's a way that all of the things can come together. You know, the Devil card is like, hey, you know what? It's actually, and you know what's interesting is that the Devil card is actually a Capricorn card. But it's so interesting because the Sagittarians also got like a Sagittarius card in like their month end. But anyway, so this is like a card where it's just like, are you overworking? Are you work obsessed? Are you, you know, pushing yourself to the brink, and like really is that imbalance, you know? Also, what kinds of things are you subscribing to that you think need to look a certain way, which is why I bring it back to this card as well. It's like, does it need to look that way? Maybe it's not just one or the other. Other thing I'll say, and I know this isn't going to be applicable for all Capricorns, but are there, like, because the Devil card can also be pointing to, like, are there addictions that you have, like things that are in an unhealthy way in your life? And that doesn't have to be substances, although I guess for some people it could be, but it could be food. It could be, you know, when you do take a break, like how you check out, right? It's all these different types of scenarios, but those are the kinds of things, you know. I get the sense that there's a lot of choice and thinking, like so much cerebral energy and just trying to choose, and you know, like, how do I do this? Like, what is my identity? Like, there's just so much here. It feels really full. And so, you know, I would ask, are you overworking? Are you subscribing to ideas about the way that things, quote unquote, should be, or that you think they should be? Is there more flexibility that's available for these scenarios, whatever it is that you're going through that is feeling like very tied in with your sense of self, right? Even the way that you look, or what how you're taking care of your body in those ways. So I hope that this feels helpful and clarifying in some way. So yeah, definitely, if it was, please give the video a like. It does help me to have favor with the algorithm gods. And also, please subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't already. It does help me also with building this channel, but that way you don't miss any of the videos on the horizon. So I'll have the bi-weekly videos that I did recently up on the screen here for you so that you can check that out. And also, you might notice in the description box, I have my dad is 83, lost everything in the Lahaina fires, and it's his GoFundMe, and also a link to a reel that I did about his story. So if you feel so inclined, if you know friends who are wanting to contribute to people who were a part of that loss and just want to help, then awesome. Like, no hard feelings if not. Obviously, just trying to get the word out to help my dad. So thank you guys so much. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.